Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Bioshock Infinite 1999 mode Scavenger Hunt walkthrough. We are still in Soldier's Field and I'm currently looting a bar that you're going to come back to once you have a code book so that you can decipher the Vox Populi code on the bathroom wall. And if I've got one criticism for these codes, I think if you know the solution you should be able to do it without picking it up, because it's generally an action within the room, and I just think it'd be cooler that if you had the knowledge you could do it anyway, as opposed to having to find a really arbitrary pickup to come back, which is a little gay. But there it is, and you're going to notice I go immediately to try and see if I can do it. You can't. You need to have the book, and I understand why they've done it. It's to literally stop you from stumbling on it, because this is a game where you're essentially going to be like a blind man and you're going to walk into everything with your face tapping X, hoping to pick up $1 or a rare trinket or find something secret. So people would find that cache if they did not lock it up, and it's understandable. I just wish it was slightly different. But I've been wanting to play Bioshock 1 again, and I'm going to, just because I've not played it in a while. I love that game and it's just awesome, and I wish there was a PC version that had, you know, achievements for games for Windows Live, because I'd probably stream it while I played it, because as people know, I can be quite an achievement whore at times. For the most I'm quite relaxed these days, but every so often I get a hunger to get some points, and if I'm going to play back through a game that I want to play, it's more worthwhile to do it when I've got, you know, the achievement points as an incentive. And I found out the other day that German region games will play on a PAL console. Obviously it's just in German, so that's the only difference. So I went on a little, you know, internet adventure. I was looking on Amazon.de and various other German game sites to try and find the original Bioshock, and I just couldn't see it at all. That is the code, the decipher book in the cannon's mouth, and then you can go back and do the little cache and get your infusion. But none of them had the original Bioshock. I did see Dead Space 2, and the German version of Dead Space 2 has another 1000G, so I'm definitely going to look into picking that up, because I'd like to play it again after Dead Space 2, sorry, did I say 3? I meant 2. I want to play after Dead Space 3, because I remember 2 being amazing. I remember 3 now not being as great as I wanted it to be, so it'd be nice to go back and see how my perspective has changed now that I've played them both. And then once again, it's something else to stream, because I don't stream enough because I'm generally quite busy, but when I do, I'd like to do stuff that's a little bit more interesting to watch than me running around trying to find Riddler trophies in Arkham City. But this is the cache. There is the infusion. As you'll notice, I'm mainlining my shield, and then after that I'll do salts. Everybody's got a different opinion on what's most useful when it comes to infusion. Some people do salt early, some people do life. I recommend shield. I always recommend it. It's too useful to do anything else. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you do salts early on, you're going to have a lot of overpowered vigors to bounce people around and have no trouble, but it all comes down to staying alive and getting hit. And if you've got a recharging shield that's slightly bigger than, you know, somebody else, you're going to survive for longer. It's just the laws of the jungle. But be careful when you come out. It's going to spawn these 2 guys in the pub. I think there's more than 2. That's a shotgun, so be very, very conscious of that guy. That is the overpowered Bucking Bronco just then. The music's still playing, so somebody's still in here. And apparently sometimes Elizabeth will find valuable supplies. How long does that need to be on the screen? Goodness me. But you'll notice too, Elizabeth will only ever throw you guns at the most inopportune time. Like, you'll need salt, she'll not do it. You know, you'll need life, she doesn't do it. When you've barely lost any life, she does it. It's so strange. The AI on that character is brilliant, but in the heat of battle, if you start to rely on her, she will fail you. Trust me on that one. She comes through a lot, and you've got to give her credit, but every so often, you're going to be crouching behind a bin with no life and no shield, waiting for her to toss you something, and she just doesn't. So, just get used to it. But this is me just exploring, you know, going through the bins, all that good stuff. Pretty standard things. Couple of eagles on the floor, couple of lockpicks. The lockpicks are everywhere, so, you know, if you take your time and you're really methodical, you'll have far more than you need. I get towards the end of the game with about 30, and my first playthrough, I did not have that many, so I was definitely finding them on this one. So just take your time, look around, and it really pays off. Sometimes it's kind of strange, because some places are densely populated with shit to pick up and stuff to rifle through, and other areas just aren't. You know, you'll go to a place where you think there's going to be tons of stuff, and there isn't. I don't know if that's randomized, you know, the stuff. I wonder if it's the same every time. It'd be nice if it was slightly altered, like the gear, because the gear is randomized, which is cool. But here's another lockpick door. This is me showing my impatience, because I'm an impatient guy when I'm recording. And speaking of recording, I do have Ninja Gaiden Razor's Edge. A lot of people have been asking me if I'm going to cover it. I will be covering it. I'm just not in any rush to do so, because it's not a new game. You know, it's a Wii U game that's just been ported, and the videos will do well because there's a demand for that kind of content. I'm just not going to break my back pumping it out when there's already so much out there, you know, put by players that are generally have invested a lot more time in that franchise than I have. So, but I will be covering it. But before those go up, you're probably going to see a project I did earlier before this one and God of War, which I haven't showed yet. So that'll be interesting to see the reception on that one. But back on the German game thing, I want to know how this region stuff even happens, because I can understand localization and the language difference and all that good stuff, but the Xbox itself, the 360, is region free, so it's different. I don't know who decides what is region locked, because it's the games themselves that have had this enforced, and it makes me wonder if have they done this so that the different regions and different countries who have different pricing schemes or different ways of distributing games can make more money. You know, so you can't just buy one from America and send it over and play it on yours because America's super cheap as opposed to everywhere else. Like, I don't know, it has to be money. That's the only thing I can think of. But if I've got any German subscribers and you know any good websites to buy German games from that are cheap, please hook me up, because I'm looking forward to playing Bioshock again, and you know, it'll be fun, because I remember doing, like, is it brass balls on hard, no Vita chambers, and having a lot of fun with it. But this is the approach to the Hall of Heroes. Outside here there's going to be a couple of snipers. I always forget what's going to happen on this sequence, and Elizabeth wants you to take a sniper rifle for very good reason, but I love the carbine. Like, the sniper's good, but it's useless up close, because it's a sniper rifle, of course. And if you've not noticed by now, but I always like to carry a backup rocket launcher. You know, a backup fuck you gun, especially, because it works. This is a game that every so often you're going to come up against something you can't handle with pistols and shotguns and assault rifles, so you just need to be able to swap to the gun that works, the gun that clears the room. And this game doesn't have a super gun like a nuke or a chronoceptor or any other extremely awesome Turok weapon, which is a shame, because I reckon they could have done a really good one. But the rocket launcher, you know, the volley rifle, anything that's explosive is going to help you out. But here's the sniper. The snipers on this game are ridiculous. They're extremely fast, they do a lot of damage, and they will kill you if you let them. So just, you know, use your superior intellect and beat the computer. And then once you do that, I think there's going to be a bunch of enemies come down and try and attack us. So I come over to these stairs and I clip at the top of them. And there's a radio going nuts in this video. I can't tell where it is, but it's having a good old sing-along. So here's the first one. He's a shotgun guy. One bucking bronco, one sniper round is the game over for these. The aiming is finicky at times on this game, especially when you're sniping, because the enemies move a lot. They don't move as much as the splicers did. They were just obnoxious, but they move enough. So distance is your best friend here, because if you get distance, the enemies tend to stand still. And they do have very tiny heads. They have Time Splitter tiny heads, and this game reminds me of Time Splitters so much, just because of the way the enemies move and how hard it is sometimes to shoot them. And if you've, if you're too young to know what Time Splitters is, not only is that a massive shame because those games were so good for the time, but it's just not going to make much sense to you. But Time Splitters 2, one of the all-time best games ever made. That game is hard. Wow. I could not beat that game on hard when I was younger. It'd be interesting to go back to it to see if it really was hard or if I was just shit. But I think it was hard, because those games don't mess about. Perfect Dark on is it Dark Agent? I think that's the hardest difficulty. There's no checkpoints in those games, and those levels are quite long, and if you fail an objective, it's insta-fail, death. If you die, which you can do in seconds, like literally seconds, unbelievably fast. And it does make me wonder if I was either slightly older or capture technology was slightly older as well. If I'd have started making guides for those kind of games, what it would have been like, because those games were so hard. We're spoilt today compared to some stuff, and this difficulty is, somebody said it's a reference to System Shock, but in the Ken Levine interview he mentions that the 1999 difficulty is essentially for the hardcore gamers who remember when games were more challenging. And games obviously used to be more challenging, but 1999, they were still not that challenging compared to what they fucking used to be. If this was, in 1985 or something daft, or 1990, this would be a significantly more difficult difficulty level. But as it stands, it is tough. It's just not as tough as those old, like Time Splitters 2 and stuff. Like, I can't imagine the games I played as a kid being able to beat them on our hardest difficulties, because I couldn't beat them on normal. It's really weird how time and age and experience changes your perspective on things. Like, it makes me wonder if my nephews would be able to beat this game on this difficulty. Would this be the equivalent to what those games are to me, those older ones? Is it just age and wisdom, as some people like to call? I don't know. Very strange. But this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and you take care now.